So yeah, my name is Takara Arnold. I'm a wellness ambassador at TRU's Wellness Center.
And I am BB as Wellness Ambassador at the Wellness Center.
And for this week's Wellness in Your House, last week of finals, we're going to be presenting on detoxifying your social media. So before we start, we would like to offer a territorial acknowledgement. So we would like to humbly acknowledge that we work, live, love, and learn on the traditional lands of the Tecumloops to Secwepemc within Secwepemcúlecw, the traditional and unceded territory of the Secwepemc Nation. And I'd like to just invite everybody to take a couple seconds to just sit where you are and reflect what it means for you to be on this land. Okay. So today's team, so we already introduced ourselves, but here's photos of us, and these are our pronouns. So my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
And mine is she, her.
So for today's agenda, like we introduced, we're going to be talking about detoxifying your social media. And then here are the topics that we're going to be going through today. So we're going to start off by what is detoxifying your social media, talking about some of the negative effects of social media. We're going to provide some social media statistics and studies, talk a bit about social media addiction and the relationship with dopamine. We're also going to talk about the positive role that social media plays in our lives, detoxifying your social media and why it's important, some signs that you might need a social media detox, how and where to start with detoxifying your social media, ways to keep busy and tips for a social media detox, and then some recommendations for positive influences on social media. And then we're going to end off with some TRU and community resources. So detoxifying your social media. So in the age of technology, social media inevitably plays a really large role in many of our lives. Because social media can be so ingrained in our daily lives, sometimes we're unaware of the impact it has on us or the power it holds over us. When was the last time you did not check your phone from the time you woke up to the time you fell asleep? And I'll give a couple seconds for everybody in the chat if you feel comfortable to, if you want to engage, if you want to provide some answers. So Chelsea answered when you went camping, summer of 2019, so almost a whole year or over a year. And Sarah answered when I was in a place that I didn't get service. And Jessica answered, I took a phone break this past summer. How about you, BB?
Wow. I think probably when I go to bed at night.
Yeah, I think probably the last time for me, I'm gonna say, is maybe sometime over the summer, and it's probably when I didn't have reception. So what is a social media detox? So a social media detox is a conscious elimination of social media use and consumption for a set period of time. So maybe a typical social media detox might look like, I'm not sure if many of us had or have seen social media detox calendars or plans, but there is no set way of doing a social media detox. So it's really about reflecting on your relationship with social media, reflecting on how it's affecting you, how you'd like your relationship to be, and then taking some conscious steps to make a difference. So I listed here some different styles of social media detox. So there's the cold turkey style, which we'll get into, and that's the common one that we hear about, where you maybe gradually eliminate over time, and then you do a full break for a set period of time. The second style is a gradual, so maybe that's just making conscious decisions to lessen your media use for a long period of time. Then there is flexible. So as we know, a lot of us with the jobs that we have, the relationships we have, and especially during the age of COVID, Being off social media and off our phones is not always a viable option for us. So a flexible social media detox might be you might pick a certain time of the week or a certain hour of the day or certain very short spurts of time where you want to detox from media, but then you have to get back to your phone for practical reasons. And then the last style is spring clean. So we'll talk about this more as we go on, but I think, and I've had a lot of conversations around this, but maybe some of the things personally for me on my feed aren't always serving me or aren't always positive additions to the daily things that I'm seeing. So a spring clean might look like reflecting on what you follow, maybe people that you're friends with on social media, content that you're seeing, and doing a clean out of things that no longer serve you. And BB, do you have anything else to say about this one before I move on to the next slide?
No, not for now.
Okay. So I think this one's your slide, BB.
Yeah. So here is the negative effect of social media. Social media, we all agree that social media is a great tool for us to keep in touch with our family and friends, even from a distance. However, excessive use of social media at the expense of interpersonal interactions with our friends and family can negatively impact our relationships and our well-being. And we should always remember that social media can be a false reality. People only post what they want others to see. And this can have negative effect on us in form of time consumption. It consumes our time, which can have a negative effect on our mental health in form of stress. We get stressed, we get anxiety, and also it can be addictive where we don't set healthy boundaries. This can tend to be addictive to us, where we tend not to drop our phones, and it can also trigger more sadness and less well-being. Um, and also this also bring the triggering can be a cause of the comparison trap, whereby we compare our lives with others, which can be mentally unhealthy. We most times we fall into the trap of comparing ourselves with others as we stroll through our feeds and make judgment about how we measure up. And also cyberbullying. Cyberbullying has been linked with depression, anxiety, social isolation, and suicide. Compared to the traditional form of bullying, cyberbullying can be witnessed by a large audience, and the perpetrators can remain anonymous. And this can have a negative effect on the victim, whereby they won't be able to escape from such incidents. And privacy issues. It's so surprising that a lot of people or everyone could. It's very it's very surprising how much somebody can find out about you simply by going on your social media history, and it has provided much more easy access to people, even public figures, celebrities. They can be reached easier and faster now. And so this can also be as a result of stalking, hacking, and other and other things like that. And the negative impact of social media use itself can cause sleep problems, anxiety, eating issues, and can even increase the risk of suicide. Many as also as a result of FOMO, the fear of missing out. And yeah, the next slide.
So yeah, as BB was talking about, social media, it can provide us a lot of positive things in our life, but as BB listed, it can have a really negative influence in our life, and that can be emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. And BB had listed before something about social media addiction, and I'll go into it in more detail. So we'll start off by talking about dopamine. So dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. Your body makes it and your nervous system uses it to send messages between nerve cells. That's why it's sometimes called a chemical messenger. Dopamine plays a role in how we feel pleasure. It's a big part of our unique human ability to think and plan, and it helps us strive, focus, and find interesting things. So some of the behaviors and physical functions that are linked to dopamine is learning, motivation, our heart rate, sleep, our mood, our attention, our pain processing, and our movement. So those are just a few things, and dopamine plays a really big part into social media addiction. So dopamine really consists of that anticipation and that motivation piece linked together, and we experience that sensation a lot with social media. So this is how social media affects our brain's dopamine systems. So instant gratification. So when your brain enters a reward-seeking mindset, all you have to do is open up Reddit or Twitter or Instagram, whatever you use, and send out a tweet or a message. And your brain will interpret that as having acted, thus releasing feelings of pleasure as a reward. The second one is incomplete gratification. So even though Reddit links or tweets might feel rewarding in that moment, they're only slightly so. So you never fully feel satisfied and you keep feeling compelled to go back and repeat that action. The third one is unpredictable stimuli. So the brain releases dopamine when something unexpected happens. And since notifications and alerts are unpredictable, they're triggering dopamine that keeps you hooked. And this can happen really unpredictably and triggering, and you maybe emotionally aren't ready for that at that moment in time. And that creates a lot of anxiety and nerves around phones and social media. And then the fourth one is anticipation and conditioning. So as you immerse yourself in a dopamine triggering stimuli, such as social media and constant phone exposure, your brain begins to anticipate it before it even happens. So this is why we often feel drawn to compulsively check our social media if we've gone too long without that social media trigger, and then it just continues on this cycle. So that's just a little bit about how social media and the neurology of the brain can be linked to addictive and repetitive behaviors with it. And when we go unchecked with our social media, that's when we might form a little bit of a dependency or an unhealthy relationship with it. So then here we provided some social media statistics and studies. So this first one here, a multitude of studies reported a correlation between time spent on social media and symptoms of depression and anxiety. Another one here, in 2020, a study asked people to deactivate their Facebook account for a month. All study participants reported increased feelings of happiness and satisfaction in life and minimized impacts of their depression and anxiety. And it's important to remember that while we talk about this, it's not stating that social media or the active role in your life is the causation of something like depression and anxiety. Those are, complex mental health conditions, although it can contribute to the impacts and the side effects and symptoms of those. And then lastly here, social media use at night disrupts in a number of ways. People stay up late online and the light from the screen can disrupt one's circadian rhythm. And many people wake up at night in order to check and respond to their messages. So that's going to be affecting our REM sleep cycles and often not getting full sleeps. So the positive role in social media. So as we just divulged into some of the negative impacts, it's important for us to remember that not only do we live in a age really heavily immersed in social media, but we're also living in a time that connection is not always a possibility right now. So I provided a quote here from Joel Lee, somebody who studies social media and its mental health effects. So we need the companionship of others to thrive in life. And the strength of our connections has a huge impact on our mental health and happiness. Being socially connected to others can ease stress, anxiety, and depression, boost our self-worth, provide comfort and joy, prevent loneliness, and even add years to your life. On the flip side, lacking strong social connections can pose a serious risk to your mental and emotional health. And then here we provided some of the positive things social media enables us to do. So social media enables us to communicate with friends and families around the world, find new friends and communities, and network with people who share similar interests, join, promote, and raise awareness on important issues, seek and offer support during tough times, find vital social connection if you live in a remote area, have limited independence, show social anxiety, or are part of a marginalized group. Social media can enable you to find an outlet for your creativity and self-expression, and social media can help you discover, with care, sources of valuable information and learning. And so I thought I'd take this moment here to give anybody in the chat a chance to provide a positive social media role that it might have in your life if you'd like to share. So Sarah shared in the chat here my long distance relationship. That is super important. Chelsea typed connected during COVID. Oh, hi, Navisha. So Navisha shared that that's the way you can connect with your family back home. And Sarah shared, and my relationships with family while I'm away at school. Yeah, so these are all super important and yeah, just really essential connections that social media enables us to carry out. Bibi, did you have anything positive about social media that you wanted to share?
Yeah, it has raised awareness to some of like most of the posts and content I follow right now. It helps me raise awareness of like important issues that are happening right now, especially when it comes to like mental health, wellness. So yeah, that's the positive side.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd say that's a big thing for me. Lots of things. I mean, I have a super busy schedule, and it is nice to just be able to send a text to check on with people and check in with my loved ones who I may not even have the time for a phone call or FaceTime with. So that sense of immediacy is really nice. And yeah, I really like finding like art and other artists on there. So that's a positive role that social media has played in my life. And then here, so social media can be a viable and meaningful tool for connection. And during the age of COVID-19, connection is important more now than ever. So if we are to rely on social media platforms to remain connected, it is important that we establish healthy, boundary grounded, and enjoyable relationships with social media.
And here, so why is detoxifying our social media very important? This is important to our, is important to us, and also a form of self-care because it helps us to clear our mind. Um, Detoxifying from social media is the right way to cleanse, follow up, and declutter our emotional life. It helps us take control of our digital habits, helps us to cultivate healthy boundaries with our gadgets, and also cleansing our feed from things that no longer serves us. We tend to forget that nobody's profile truly reflects who they are as a person. Posts content and posts on social media are filtered and sterilized. And so the benefits of social media detox, it provides more time for us, for ourselves to engage in to be able to engage in other important activities in our lives. It improves our sleeping pattern. It helps us sleep better. Separating yourself from your mobile phone or from social media might lead to less time on your phone and helps you go to bed earlier and boost your creativity and productivity for the next day. And it also helps you to prioritize more personal form of interaction with friends, with family. It could also give you time to actually write a letter, uh, and whereby you can mail letters and also video calls to people that you love, and it can also improve your mental health, more time for your self-care, and helps you to relax. It helps you to relax a bit more. It can lessen the obligation associated with constant communication, most times responding to new messages, emails, Facebook messages nonstop can be stressful. And
Mm.
so getting away from that, even for a day, can be really good. And it improves our relationship with people, making us be more present with people around us, more mindful when we're having interpersonal interactions. And it also conquers FOMO, the fear of missing out. You don't feel like you're missing out um, of anything, and it allows you to take a step back and appreciate how good your life is. And doing a social media detox helps us to achieve a healthy and less stressful uh, work-life balance, and also it helps to remind us that we don't need to seek validation from outside sources. And here is a visual post from an Instagram page called Positively Present. It shows you the reasons why you need to drop your phone. It gives you more time for yourself, less comparing, um, enhance awareness, decreases anxiety, increase productivity, better sleep, and personal growth. So yeah, signs that you need a social media detox. And as we're going through the signs that you need a social media detox, there will be some questions, and I want us to like reflect on those questions and see and know whether we need to take a break from social media. So when you feel, do you feel anxious when you scroll? Do you wonder if you're missing out of something, or you hope that people are having fun without you? And this could bring lower your confidence and give you sleep problems, and this could make you feel lonely, stressed out. And also the content you see brings your mood down. So the pictures that you see, do they upset you? The content you see, do they upset you? Do you wish you had better access to fancy homes, creativity, and style? If you constantly compare yourself to people online, feeling like you feel short of yourself, uh, I think it's time to take a break, and also take a step back and realize how good your life is, and know that people just front the good and hide the bad. And also, do you need to put your phone? Do you have the need to put your phone down? Is your phone always in handy, nearby, even when you're having real life conversation with people? If you can't stop checking your social media, it's time to put your phone down and take a walk, and yeah. Um, you post about your life before you leave it. Do you always wonder? And I am actually guilty of this. Like thinking back then when I was really into social media, I would be thinking of where to go to, any restaurants that have a fancy background, and just to go take nice pictures for the gram and all that. So when you go out, do you stage pictures? Do you spend a lot of time thinking of the comments and the statements to tweet, to post the captures? I, and this is the time to take a step back and realize that you need a break. And do you check your social media without thinking about it? If you're always waiting for the next notification, and you're always looking for the next text that is coming forth. And also, if you automatically go online, and when you're bored, and that's time to realize that you need to take a step back from social media. And if social media interferes with your productivity, it's time to consider taking a break. Where if you go online, if you're busy and you are not, if you're not, yeah, if you're not concentrating or you're distracted by text messages, it's time to take a cleanse from social media.
Thanks, Phoebe. So after listing all of those, so I think it's important to remember that, we've all had access to really unregulated use of social media. And I think a lot of these side effects and symptoms of maybe a need for a social media detox is completely normal. And, like Bibi was saying, Bibi had dealt with some of these. I have definitely as well. I've definitely had a codependent relationship with my phone. And I think that's, totally okay. And that's just a moment where we sit back and reflect how it's affecting us and we make some conscious decisions to make changes. So now that Baby listed those, I don't know if anybody feels comfortable sharing. Have you felt like you experienced any of these symptoms or relationships and felt like you needed a social media detox? I'll give a couple, like a minute or two for if anybody wants to share.
I'll share Takara, like just by speaking.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think for me right now, I think COVID, there's such like a polarization right now we're experiencing in terms of, for example, this mask wearing so I think sometimes it's like just certain topics, like if they're very sticky points, that kind of content starts, depending on positions can frustrate me. And so I've decided to limit how much of that I'm taking in of that specific topic. Mm-hmm. And, when I see someone have this like huge post about something, if I read that I recognize that I don't potentially like agree with the values behind it, then I actually stop reading it because I don't need to be activated and I'm busy enough. And so I've had to take a step back from that particular type of post. That's kind of the most recent example for me. So, and it's a good lesson too, in terms of like, I think how you communicate about certain potentially polarizing topics as well. So for me, it's been a lot of like learning, but also distancing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing. And I really liked your use of the word activating, because I feel like that's just really embodies a lot of what social media does to us. It, without consent and without warning, we see something and it activates us. So I saw in the chat that Sarah and Jessica wanted to share. So Sarah typed in first. So do you want to share and then Jessica can share after?
Sure. I just wanted to go off of kind of what Chelsea said as well. Like, things are very unregulated and you can kind of scroll down your social media or feed and you don't know what you're going to see. Or sometimes I've often found too that like people that I really care about in my life share some very activating posts that go very far against my values with quite a lot of things, honestly. So I've started to not necessarily going fully off the platform, because it is where we get a lot of our information about, especially now with COVID too, like the new regulations or how numbers are or whatever. So I've started to like unfollow certain people because I can't ruin that relationship by deleting someone off social media, but I kind of take a detox from what certain people share, I guess, if that makes sense. So it's kind of just like eliminating. And then if I am in a headspace where I can go and see something that might be a little bit more activating, then I know I can go to that profile and kind of see what's being shared or whatever, but it's kind of just eliminating it. So I'm not caught off guard when I see something, I guess.
And I think those are really good coping skills for having to be present on social media often. And that sounds like really good boundaries that are set. I feel like that's hard sometimes to unfollow and delete people, but that's what you have to do, especially if they're posting things that are triggering and activating. So Jessica, did you want to pop on and share too?
Yeah, sure. I really like what I've heard Sarah and Chelsea say. I kind of agree. That's definitely one of the ways that I notice it in myself is when I'm like seeing things that people are posting and finding myself like internally having like a dialogue that's really judgmental. I start like I notice I stop being able to separate the fact that like people are not what they post on their social media. And I start responding from a place of like, these are, you know, what they stand for, and especially if they're things that are a little activating for me. So that's one way. And another big way that I notice I need a social media detox big time is when I stop, like it starts intruding, or I start allowing it to intrude on my other self-care time. Like if I have some time in the busyness of the day where I could just be sitting there with myself or be journaling or doing something that's a little more quiet, especially with like all the extra screen time we already have. If my first instinct is picking up my phone to like aimlessly scroll, then I need a detox. So those are definitely the two big ones for me, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Team. Sorry, I was this is like the COVID brain, to be honest. I haven't watched it yet, but my goal for next week is I don't actually have a back-to-back schedule every day next week. I'm so excited, but my goal is to actually watch The Social Dilemma. I'm not sure if anybody's watched that on Netflix, because it actually goes into like what you're talking about, Takara and Bibi, about the dopamine part of the brain and the ethics around. One of the people behind the documentary was like an ethicist that worked at Google and actually left and does like a lot of like education now. And the one thing if I find fascinating when you combine those sort of like the dopamine and that need and the access is that they're actually calling our phones like mini slot machines that we have in our pockets.
More
and right. Yeah. And what they did was they linked like the unknown in terms of responses. Cause I did attend a couple weekends ago, like a child psychology like conference virtually. And there was one session about like the digital landscape and youth brains and that kind of stuff. But it talks about what he said is like slot machines. When you look at slot machines in casinos, they make more money in the US in 1 year than like baseball tickets, amusement park sales, and like movie ticket sales, it like combined, right? And they were saying it's that you don't know if you're going to get all of your win. So it's like that unknown. And they relate that the same thing as like being on social media. When you post something, how many likes you're going to get, who's going to respond. It's kind of that unknown and kind of keeps us going back. So anyways, I'm quite fascinated by that whole like neurological piece of social media and access to technology all the time. So anyways, I'm just sharing that. If you haven't seen it, apparently it's supposed to be really interesting and thought-provoking. So The Social Dilemma, I'll put it in the chat.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I have heard of that before and it's definitely on my watch list. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of I'm presuming we're going to be seeing a lot of interesting research continuing to come out as we further growing up with social media. So Navisha, I saw in the chat before you wanted to share too. Did you still want to share? Yeah, of course. Whenever you want to hop on mic, if you want to share before we head on to the next slide, that's totally okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I just wasn't sure if we had time. Yeah, this semester just has been tough for that because I heard this great, every time I'm attending my classes, because my phone's near me, I like start to fiddle with it, and I've just been on social media so much. But Tyler had this amazing tip that you should have like a fidget spinner or something else that you can fiddle with so that you don't like get carried away with your phone, which I felt was like a really good tip and I should share with everyone. And apart from that, I've just been like deleting and reinstalling apps.
Yeah.
I still like have long ways to go when it comes to all of this, just because this is the way that I can reach my family and like kind of keep in touch and don't have to talk with them all the time if I'm too busy. So it has been just tough with just that part.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Navisha. And that's a really great tip. I definitely need to invest in a bunch of fidget spinners as well myself. I have a hard time not checking my phone. But yeah, thank you for sharing. So now we're going to jump into detoxing your social media, where to start. So as I talked about on the first slide, there's different ways we can do it, right? There's different abilities that we can be off our phone. Not everybody has the privilege to be able to be off their phone, depending on work and social connection. So where to start is reflecting on your current social media use. Taking a moment to think about, how does it make me feel? What parts about it do I like? What parts about it don't I like? And why do I want a social media detox? The second part is to make a plan. So as I was talking about before, once again, seeing what's realistic for you, making a plan if you want to do the 30-day no social media cleanse, but still, be on your phone. If you want to try and cut out social media during the evening times, if you want to do a big spring clean and unfollow. So kind of making a plan after reflecting on how you want to change and then planning that out. So then part 3 is detox prep. So this could be unfollowing and like spring cleaning, things that do not serve you, do not make you feel good. Next one is uninstalling certain apps, uninstalling Instagram, Snapchat, whatever apps you feel like you want to be rid of during your detox. Informing your loved ones. So, I know for me personally, I try and keep up with a lot of people. And I feel a lot of internal guilt when I'm not able to get back to people in a timely manner. So I know all the time, if I'm in finals, I'll let my loved ones know, hey, don't take it personally. I'm not going to be very present or active at this time. And I'm not always going to get back to you unless it's, a really, serious issue. So just letting people know, and then also allowing people letting people know is a way to set your boundaries, saying, hey, I'm doing this for myself. This is for me. It's not personal. I'm doing this for my own health, and having that conversation. And then people can better support you, trying to take time away from social media. And then the next one is planning free time, which BB will talk a little bit about more in the next slide. And then step 4 is your detox time. So however you do your detox, once you do it, you have that time set out. And then after your detox, have a reflection. You could journal, think it, talk about it with a friend. How did that detox feel? Was it difficult? Did it make you kind of reflect on how bad maybe social media addiction was without realizing? And then what do you want your future relationship with social media to look like? What did you learn during that time, and how do you want to make changes in the future? And so some detox lists, or here's a list of detox tips. I don't know if you want to talk about this, BB?
Yeah, sure. Overall, it has to do with being realistic. You have to be mentally prepared to go through the cleanse, and you have to look for ways to eliminate the use and too much consumption of social media, slowly cutting time spent, and also eliminating things that don't serve you on your feed. Give your phone a bedtime where you can drop your phone outside of your bedroom. And yeah, you can also get a real alarm clock. I am guilty for this because I use the alarm clock on my phone. So yeah, there's always this subconscious feeling when I wake up and just want to check my phone. And so yeah, you have to get a real alarm clock if you want to go on this cleanse. And there's a tracking app on our phone setting where we can track our usage on social media. I think it also we can track our daily use and our weekly use on social media, and also turning off notification, because notifications, this gives us that overwhelming feeling, and the pressure builds up for us to just check our latest messages, and this could cause distraction. And also setting boundaries, whereby we set a time that we want to go on our phones. And there are also apps that you could use to track the time that you go back on your phone if you're maybe busy doing other engagements. And also, we should abandon our phones from our bed, anywhere we're like abandoning our phone from certain spaces, like our bedroom, restroom, even when we go for dinner, just getting rid of your phone for that moment and just setting healthy habits and boundaries with our phones. And those are the tips.
So yeah, those are some tips. A really big one for me, and it's a lot more powerful than it sounds, but turning off social media notifications. So like I said before, I'm somebody who has to be on my phone for a lot of things. But there's so much power in turning off notifications for every social media, Facebook, Instagram, everything, because then I'm not compelled to check it every time I get a notification. I'll go and check these built up notifications all at one time at the end of the day. So that one's been a really helpful one. And BB, could you write this one in the chat? So BB was talking about a kind of task management tracking app. So a really great one, if anybody's heard of it, is called Forest. So yeah, if you want to type Forest app in the chat for me. So that's a really great one. You start off and you get a little forest, and you set a certain amount of time that you want to not be on your phone. So I'll put 30 minutes, and then you hit the start button and it starts planting your tree. During that time while your tree's planting, it refuses you from opening all your social media, but you can make exceptions for Spotify if you're listening to music while you're doing homework, and you can make exceptions for texting and calls. So it's a really great one. I'll turn it on, and then once the time's up, your tree is grown. But if you break it before then, it slices your tree. So it kind of motivates you because you don't want to have a bunch of dead trees in your forest. And it's really cool to look at your forest grow. So that's a recommendation that I have.
Yeah, so keeping busy when we're on our detox, take a walk, nature walk, go out, appreciate how beautiful life is, go to the riverside, go to the beach, and also read something new. You could get a magazine or your favorite book. You could put it in your bag, carry it wherever you're going to. Whenever you're busy, you're bored, you could just create a time where you read it. You can cook something for yourself. Think of a dish that you enjoy. You can even experiment, and it doesn't necessarily have to come out good. The most important thing is you tried something new. And also planning a holiday, plan a vacation with family, friends. You can take pictures, but just have it in mind that this is not for the purpose of posting online. This is for me to cherish later in life. You can actually get a printout copy of your pictures, and you can become a writer, write your emotions, your feelings. I do this a lot. Yeah. And yeah, whenever you're alone, you can just like read whatever you've written in the past, and it just reminds you. And also it helps control our anxiety. It gives us give yourself time. You can go to the spa and have a new hair, new style. And window shopping also, I love doing window shopping, so this makes your pocket happy, so you can do that. Get coffee or tea, and you can start some DIY projects, paintings, gardening, and yeah, also playing with colors. And you'll be surprised, you can even be a very good artist when you color and play with your crayons and pencils to keep you busy.
And just like hearing you list all those things too makes me think of how much more time I would have to do all these things. Wondering if I didn't spend so much time on social media. That's definitely a really big thing that makes me reflect on. Okay, so we just included some social media mantras. I'm a big mantra person. I write them on pieces of paper, and I might put them on my mirror when I'm trying a challenge or doing something or trying to incorporate something new into my life. So I'll read them out here. I am unplugging to unwind. It doesn't matter what others are doing. It really matters what I'm doing. It doesn't need to be. I need a break to rejuvenate and be alone with my thoughts. Time devoted to my mental health is time well spent. I can glow and grow privately. And then here we listed here just an example of what a detox calendar might look like. So I'll read these out. And like I said, you can personalize these and do them in whatever way works for you. So day 1, reflect on why I want a social media detox, set goals and make a plan. And like Bibi was talking about, make a plan of some things that you enjoy and that will keep you busy and fill your cup. Day 2, unfollow people and sites that don't make me feel good and no longer serve you. Day 3, set a bedtime for my phone. After 9 p.m., phone gets put away. Day 4, within the first hour of waking up, no phone. Get an alarm clock for bonus points. Day 5, turn off social media notifications. Day 6, social media free until after lunch. Day 7, set 1 hour limit to social media for the day. Day 8, log out of all social media apps. Day 9, uninstall social media apps. And then day 10, social media free day. And for bonus points, turn your phone off for the entire day. So that's just an example of what a social media detox can look like. And as we are coming to the end of our presentation, so a bunch of amazing people in our Wellness Center Ambassador group over the course of time, from Livy, who actually organized this, just started compiling a bunch of positive social media influences. So as we talked about before, social media has a lot of great benefits, and there is a lot of amazing people out there creating really fantastic content that might be a lot more positive to see on our feed. So I won't go one by one, but some of the range that we have here, we have some self-improvement influencers, we have some ending diet culture people, we have Black Lives Matter resources, dismantling white supremacy, indigenous creators and decolonizing resources, recipe creators, this rising woman here, it's survivor sensitive content for healthy relationships, healing and personal growth. Yeah, so if you want to take a picture of this, we have another slide after. So these are just some positive social media influences that we could replace some of the negative ones that we might unfollow. And then here is another one. We have some creators on Black Lives Matter resources. We have this really cool one, God is Great. It's a sex positive LGBTQ2S+ affirming Christian addressing political topics. Got some stuff with yoga classes, healthy, affordable recipes, and artists. And if anybody wants to as well in the chat, feel free to add any positive social media people that make you feel good that you want to share with the group. Okay, so now that we're at the end, I don't know if you want to ask these questions, Bibi, but we have some reflection questions, and anybody can type out in the chat or jump on mic if you have anything you want to say about these.
Oh, Ashak. So have you ever felt like you needed a break from social media? And have you ever used social media tracking apps or tax management apps? And thanks for your recommendation for the Forest app. So yeah, I think I'm going to download that.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. And how do you set boundaries with family and friends, colleagues when you're taking a break from social media? I actually struggle with this because like sometimes I just want to take a break. Like now that I'm preparing for my exams, I got a call from my mom last night, and I was like, sorry, don't call me for the next 2 weeks, and all of that. She was fine, but it's not all my friends that will really be comfortable with that.
So for me, I can start. Yeah, I feel like I always want to break from social media. And I definitely feel a lot of those symptoms. And we talked about a lot of that before at the beginning of the presentation, but Yeah, I think often, and especially during this finals time when there's just no option not to be on media in completing finals and connecting, things with volunteer roles in my life or work lives. And I've just been desperately, desperately wanting to break. And actually, while I was working on this presentation, um, Kristen was looking at it, my girlfriend, and we both decided we're going to do the social media calendar that we wrote on here and try out the challenge as soon as I'm done finals. So I'm looking very forward to that.
Thanks for sharing, Takara. It's Chelsea again. Um, for me, I mean, sometimes most often it's if I go on social media, it's like when I kind of have a lull in something that's looking for to kill time. I do post some things on Facebook. I just, as some of you know, just joined Instagram like 2 weeks ago. So I'm trying to, and I find it like, I'm like, whoa, I don't know how to use this platform. But what I find for me too is when I know if there does become a point where I'm like, I feel left out of something, or I feel like, oh, I wish I could do that. I'm like, maybe I need to reflect on this right now, because all the reasons you mentioned at the beginning about, some of those feelings that people are only posting generally the filtered pictures of them. Like, I don't even know how to use a filter. So it's like, no one, if someone sees me, it's the real me. And I actually remember last year, on Christmas morning, like I was seeing people posting like all these beautiful pictures of themselves all dolled up. And I posted the real Corsi family. I posted like me, no makeup in my house coat with my kids under the tree, and just like, this is the real Corsis. So sometimes maybe I don't need a break from social media, but I make a point to post things that are real and authentic in order to maybe detract or to kind of like resist a little bit of my resistance around the like perfectionism that can come, I think, with social media, right? Like only posting the best photos of yourself or the ones that have been touched up or whatever. So I sort of do a little bit of resistance in my, as my way to revolt.
Thanks for sharing, and I'm glad that you shared that specifically, because that could be a whole topic in itself. And how do we engage in social media? That's a way of resisting kind of the confines or the standards that you're supposed to meet on social media. And that's a big thing that I've definitely tried to break into after I've had many social media detox and uninstalling apps. And I think something that I've done to work on my own relationship with social media is to just be the most authentic in posting and try and just really not care about likes or comments or any whatever I get. So yeah, that's one thing I've tried to better my relationship with social media. So now that we're coming to the end of the presentation, does anybody want to share, or does anybody feel like they want to take a social media break, or feel like they want to kind of rebuild their relationship with social media?
Sarah wants to share something.
Yeah, I can share. I just had two things. So the last question, how do you set boundaries with family and friends and colleagues when taking a break from social media? I think sometimes too, especially because a lot of us aren't with our family and friends all the time. So it's kind of hard to unplug while that's your main source of connection, right? A trick that sometimes I often do is I have Bluetooth headphones. So I'll plug my headphones in and leave my phone charging in my room. So then I'll call my partner or my mom or whoever, and then I'll do my laundry or like, I don't know, like do different tasks around my room or kind of while I'm cooking or whatever. So I'm still doing all those other things. And it's like I have that person in the room with me, and then I'm not on my phone at the same time, and then you can just log off. So yeah, that's kind of what I like to do. And I definitely think after listening to this, I want to take a social media break, especially over the winter break, because it is a little bit easier to kind of, just take a step back. We don't need to be connecting online as much because school is slowing down and work is slowing down for a lot of people. So it's kind of easier to take a step back without feeling like you're missing out on stuff that's going on. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Sarah. And would you mind actually writing that tip in the chat? That's a really good one.
And I have a question for Takara. Maybe if you can answer, or anyone. in a situation where you're making money off social media, because I have lots of friends that are influencers and they make money through social media, and they actually stage pictures, they go to places, they even invite me to places just so we could take pictures together and things like that. So how do you think they should take a break from social media?
Oh, I feel like that's a loaded question. I'm definitely not a social media expert here or anything, but yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like it just all depends on the individual and if they feel like it's negatively impacting them and how they feel like they want to change that. And I think it's great. Just like Chelsea was saying before, for authentic social media posting, I found too a lot of the people that I want to follow and the content I want to see is people who do post really authentic, maybe sometimes even a little bit vulnerable social media posting, and that's kind of what I'm attracted to more on my feed now. But I guess if you're making money off something, then that is kind of one of those.
That's really strategic. And I think Jessica wants to share.
Yeah, Jessica, absolutely.
Hi, so I can totally relate, BB. One of my good girlfriends, and actually quite a few people I know, have joined. See, I always judgmentally call them pyramid schemes, but like those MLM, multi-level marketing companies that really like lean heavy on social media to generate clients and generate team members and all of that stuff. And so I've experienced the same thing with, wanting me to buy certain products or go certain places to help, like, take pictures with all this products or how the products work and like before and after things, and all of those things are really against my values. And so I've had to just kind of like keep reaffirming. I think that's like, it really goes back to like setting healthy boundaries, right? And how when we set healthy boundaries, we're not, we're responsible for our delivery, but we're not responsible for the reaction of the other person or all of that. So for me, I always just try and communicate it in like a really gentle, loving, compassionate way. No matter how many times I have to repeat myself, which stuff like that is really frustrating sometimes. So I totally get. But yeah, just like letting them know, like, I'm really not comfortable in taking part in this, or saying things like, I love spending time with you, but like, can we spend authentic time together? And or just like letting them know, like, hey, I'm not super all about like the social media life. So like, let's hang out, but I'm really not in the mood to take pictures today, or like any of that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with communicating that. And if it's not received very well, then like, at least, you've spoken for yourself from like a value aligned place. And hopefully in time they can kind of see that. And then I just wanted to add too, there's like something that I often have to practice with social media, that is like a kind of like a mantra slogan that was lent to me at some point along the way here. And it's because often with social media, like, I know I like struggle with, like, I'll compare myself.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this little slogan that's like, if you're going to compare, be fair. So every time I catch myself comparing myself to something on social media, I have to remind myself that often it's not authentic. Like, I love that Chelsea posted like the real deal of her family. Usually people don't do that, right? Usually it's edited, filtered stuff that makes life look honky-dory. And so reminding myself that like, that's not always like, social media is not reality, right? So that's been really helpful too, just having that nugget in the back of my mind all the time.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. That was super helpful. So yeah, I don't know if before we move off to community resources, did anybody have any thoughts or anything they want to share? Yeah, Jessica, that was really well said. Okay. So yeah, thank you for listening to our presentation, and we just included at the end here, we'll leave these up for a couple seconds. These are on-campus resources such as the Wellness Center, TRU Counseling Services, the Sexualized Violence Prevention and Response program, TRU Medical Center, Multi-Faith Chaplain Services, and House 5 Friendship Center. And then we also have some off-campus resources such as Here to Talk chat line, Interior Crisis Line, Kamloops Mental Health, Kamloops Sexual Assault Counseling Center, 24-hour anti-violence hotline, RCMP Victim Services, and Safe Spaces. And here are our references. Cool, thank you.
Excellent job. Good job. I learned a lot. Thank you. I love the calendar. I love the tips. I love the positive feeds. And thank you for the references. I'm curious to learn more. So very comprehensive and well done to the both of you. Thank you.